Hi everyone, great to be with you. My name is Lexi Hudson and I'm thrilled to be your instructor for this class on philanthropy and storytelling. I was honored to have been invited to teach this class because it combines things that I love. I care deeply about cultivating a love of humanity, the original meaning of philanthropia, the Greek word for loving our fellow man. And I love storytelling. I'm a writer and a journalist, and I've always cared about ideas and communicating ideas that matter, and doing so through stories is an incredibly timeless and powerful way to do so. So I'm very grateful to have you all here. A little bit about me. I'm from Los Angeles originally, raised in Vancouver, Canada, and I was very blessed to live in a family, to grow up in a family that really nourished intellectual curiosity and just continued learning, and it kind of just gave me an insatiable desire to constantly be growing and learning about the world around me. My father is also a writer. He has 3 masters and his PhD in political rhetoric and Shakespeare and English literature and all these fun stuff. So he's also a filmmaker, and he is head of the communications department at my alma mater, Trinity Western University in Vancouver, Canada. And so, of course, cinema, it's a very powerful means of storytelling. Cinema is, the ultimate storyteller. And so I was raised at night. My father would tell us stories of his childhood growing up, and we were always talking about his screenplay ideas. And he's also authored about 40 children's stories. But stories are just, have been personally powerful in my life. But they are also just how we make sense of the world around us. They're how we identify who we are and our place in the world, and we have seen that, everything from Aesop's fables to the Brothers Grimm to Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. Like they have embedded in them morals and social values, but they also have just important things to say about our humanity and what it means to be human. That's going to be a driving question and just the point of reflection in this class, because that's the point of philanthropy. That's the point of what we do. It's what does it mean to be human, and what does it mean to what is the fundamental empathy and respect that we ought to cultivate for one another to make this project of civilization and human community that is not natural. It takes a lot of work, and so what is necessary? What are the necessary things that we need to sustain it and to see it survive and to see it flourish, which is the high end and goal of our life and regime. And so grateful to have lived in a home of intellectual, nourishment and curiosity. I did my master's. I did my undergrad in history and philosophy. So love intellectual history. Really enjoy just sitting down with a dense philosophical treatise. And but I realized when I graduated from my undergrad that my education kind of stopped at the Italian Renaissance, and I didn't really know what happened after that. So I ended up, and I also was incredibly passionate about how and why ideas that I cared about could help people. How could they improve people's lives? So I did my master's at the London School of Economics to bridge this idea and practice, to bridge the world of ideas and practice. And so I did my master's at LSE in public policy, and also my formal education was extraordinary, incredible courses, great professors, but I was, a short 30-minute flight from any European capital. That was a really wonderful part of my education and growing and learning, and again, getting fodder for my writing and storytelling and just deepening my intellectual life. So very, very thankful for that. Then my husband and I got married after he graduated law school and after I graduated London, and we moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I had an even greater opportunity to put my love of ideas into practice. I took a role at a local think tank focusing on education policy. So right out of grad school, I'm able to conceive the good in my office, and then write a white paper, and then sit down with the local mayor's office, the governor's office, and say, hey, these are some ideas that could actually help kids and improve education for the lives of students. And so rewarding to kind of have that experience so quickly after finishing grad school. Just such it seemed like there was just a consensus to help people and just a will to the common good. And I couldn't have been had a more disparate experience than when I moved to Washington, D.C. and lived lived in D.C. and took a role at the U.S. Department of Education. And that was just a totally different experience. It was much more divided. It seemed like there was less of a common goal, common vision of the good. And I felt like my experience was emblematic of broader divisions in our public discourse and broader political divisions today. And so I left government January 2018 and started dedicating myself full time to writing about these ideas of personhood and common humanity and our dignity and what that looks like, what obligations we have to one another by virtue of our shared humanity and what that looks like in practice. So I started then on this path of writing and reporting and bringing ideas to life through stories. And that's what I do now. And I am very grateful. So it's been coming up on 3 years that I've been on this path, and I couldn't be more fulfilled, and I couldn't at this point in my life couldn't be more persuaded of the need for stories that foster empathy, and the need to have conversations about our humanity, about the need and our obligations to one another, and just stories that elevate us and brighten our minds and brighten our days. And so we're going to be talking a lot about these themes throughout the course, and so I'm excited to get to know each of you. So welcome, thank you for being here, and I'm curious to know what you think about the books that and the readings that I've put in front of you. The War of Art is an incredible book. It is a sensational means by which the interior battle of the creative soul is articulated. He articulates that. Pressfield articulates it. And Pressfield has an incredible personal story. He was a filmmaker, he was a screenwriter, and he was not very successful, living out of the backseat of his car, and he had an idea for a novel. He was like in his 50s, so like, not early career, and he tells his screenplay agent, his screenplay agent, I have an idea for a novel, and it has to be a novel. I don't really see it as a screenplay. And his agent says, yeah, like, I'm not going to help you. I'm a screenplay agent, so you're on your own. So he, follows his passion, follows his dream, and writes this novel called The Legend of Beggar Vance, which, as we all know, goes on to be a wildly best-selling novel and becomes a very famous award-winning film with Matt Damon in it. So it did kind of circle back and become a screenplay afterwards. But what gives his story or his message in the War of Art credibility is the fact that he's lived through these interior battles and like exterior battles too. Like he was, didn't have a roof over his head. He lived out of his car like late in his life, and he didn't have a lot of professional success. But he loved the craft enough that he kept at it, and he believed in himself and believed in his craft enough that the craft itself was its own reward, despite any external accolades or fame or success. And I think that has to be among the primary goals in our own lives. Like, we have to just love what we do, despite the fact that we may not get, all the material success that we need and we think we deserve. So that's one insight I really love that he gives, a really powerful articulation to the interior struggle of just how we are often our own worst enemies when it comes to how we to the creative life, that we just make up excuses, and that there's a part of us that doesn't want us to create out of the higher part of our soul and ourselves, and wants to keep us at just the kind of base level of sensory pleasures and just indulgences. But we need to be disciplined and need to love the craft enough to rise above that and create and become this higher and best part of ourselves. So I love that. I love his story. He's lived it, so he has an enormous amount of credibility. Another insight I love, there's so many, I hope that we'll talk about all of them, but another insight is that I love this concept of defining ourselves territorially, not hierarchically. So often in life, especially, you're in a graduate studies program, you're all very accomplished, very ambitious. It can be, I am too, it can be tempting to, get in a new situation and be like, okay, what do I have to do to win? But that ought not be our goal, because there will always be someone, better, more talented, more advanced in any area of life than we are. And instead of thinking of ourselves, hierarchically, like we want to climb up the ladder, think of our lives and our craft territorially. Like, I'm going to be the best in this area that there is, and I'm going to just do the best that I can. And I'm not going to measure myself. I'm not going to measure myself by other people. I'm going to measure myself by who I was yesterday and the talent I was yesterday, and that's going to be its own. It's going to be its own reward that I get better. So that's The War of Art, one of my all-time favorite books. I call it a personal trainer for the soul. So excited to see what you think and to see what insights resonate with you. The E.B. Drunken White is just one of the great classics of basic writing. It should just be on your nightstand. It should be on your bookshelf just forever. It just the way in which communicating complex ideas, but simply, crisply, that's a power. That is a powerful tool that you will have with you wherever you go. You'll always have a job if you know how to write, and so excited to be able to share both those books with you in case you haven't encountered them before, and excited to have these next few weeks with you in this class on philanthropy and storytelling. So without further ado, I'll let you get to your reading and your writing, and so please come next time to class, come to our first class with some ideas in mind of what are some stories in your life that you think in your life or that you've encountered that could be fodder for your professional writing or personal writing. What are some insights that we can mine about the human experience and the human condition that your life contains? And so just bring 3 to 5, and we'll talk about them in class. And throughout this class, we will unpack these stories, and you'll create a draft of a story, 300 to 500 words, and then by the end of this class, you will have a very tight and polished and robust piece of professional writing that may even be published somewhere. I'd love to help with that. And so that's the broad goal. It's a short time together, but I'm excited for the time, and I'm grateful to each of you for being here and looking forward to getting to know you. Thanks.